Hi everyone, I'm Beep. My brother Honk is running the camera today. We are the Beep and Honk Show. We are drone bees and we answer tech questions. Today's topic is FPV drones, and today's question comes from Lucy. She asks, how do I slow my drone down? The throttle seems overpowered and scary. Low speed response seems bad, but I don't want to lose throttle power in case my drone needs it either. Okay, mm, this can have a complex answer. If you found this video, like through a search, I'll tell you the answer is to set up rate profiles, which can then be selected at will through an extra switch on your radio transmitter. And I will show you how to do this. And if that's not what you need, you can probably stop watching. But if this is what you need, please keep watching. Otherwise, I hope I save you some time. Anyhow, experienced pilots tend to get used to this, and that's not a problem for them, but there's plenty of times when you should be able to have some limits on throttle. Some people, though, I guess maybe the gatekeeping types are going to tell you, just deal with it. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is not good advice. The solution here is to make use of rate profile selection and to create a few different throttle profiles for you that can be selected by a switch on your radio transmitter. This makes it possible for you to do things like limit your throttle, let's say to 50%. And then you can use the entire range of your throttle stick to cover 50% of your throttle. You basically gain twice as much resolution with the range that you have set up. Of course, you can use whatever percentage you like. 50 is kind of a good starting point to test out, though. So most of the work for making the magic happens in Betaflight. So in case you don't know, Betaflight is some software you can use to configure your drone. Most FPV drones support it, and you're plugging your drone into your computer. And so let's go ahead and do that. We'll look at the computer screen right now. Okay, so I've got my drone connected. And first, I'm going to see if it finds it. There it is. Okay. And I'm going to click on the connect button. Beep. There's my drone. So let me show you what you need to do to enable rate profile selection so you can have different throttle curves ready to command right off of your radio. So the first thing you need to do is go into the PID tuning, and if you don't see the PID tuning tab, you probably have to turn on expert mode. So we're going to go there, and then after you click in PID tuning, you need to click on rate profile settings. And once you're in the rate profile settings, you'll see here that you're going to be able to select between your different rate profiles. See, I have 3 of them set up, not 4. And the reason for 3 is because most radio switches are only 3 positions. So you're pretty much best using 2 or 3, depending on whatever switch you want to use for your radio. Now, some versions of Betaflight, you can use a wheel, like on the Radio Master Pocket. You may be able to get the 4th setting in there, but I find it really confusing to use, and it's not as portable. So try and stick with 3. It makes the most sense. So if you select a rate profile, for example, like I'm going to 1 or 2, you can see here I've got a slow, a medium, and a fast. And here's a tip. If you pick a rate profile, let's say you pick 1 and it just keeps jumping to like 3 or 2, that means you probably have your radio on. And if that's the case, you may have to turn it off. And this is something that I've seen with certain flight controllers where it just gets a little confused like that. And I don't really know what else to tell you. But if you see this behavior where you just jump, you pick 1 and it just jumps to 2, and no matter what you do, it's always on 2, that's probably what's going on. So you'll have to do a little experimenting. In my case, I have my radio off, and that's why it just lets me select through them. And so I've got 3 rate profiles, and if you pay attention to this side over here, when I flip through my slow and medium, there's 2 settings that are the same, is that they both have scale, but then look at the throttle limit. It says 75 on medium. If I go back to slow, it says 50. Now there's a little picture that if I scroll down a little bit here, that shows me that if I push my throttle stick all the way up, I'm only going to get 50% throttle on my drone. And if I go to medium, I get 75. So you can see that curve comes up a little bit. Now, on my fast rate profile, my throttle limit is off. My throttle limit is set to 100. So this means I will get the full available power on my drone when I hit the stick all the way. But we're not done yet. There's 2 more things that you really need to do, or at least 1 more thing, but I'm going to say that these things are mandatory. Next thing you want to do is you go to your OSD, and you can see here that I've got a field, and this is my rate profile name. When I'm flipping through the switch my radio, I can see if I'm on slow, medium, or fast. And when I scroll down here, the actual setting that you want to enable is profile, rate profile name. Of course, this depends on what language you're using in Betaflight. All of this does. But I'm using English because that's what I use. And after we do this, and you put the output on the screen where you want it to go by dragging it around, the last thing you've got to do is you have to go to adjustments. And again, if you don't see adjustments, it's because you don't have expert mode turned on. So we go to adjustments, and over here you can enable a new adjustment. I only have this one that's enabled, and I'm going to pick aux4 because that's the channel that I'm using for my rate profile selection. And I'm going to make my sliders cover the whole range of my PWM output. And I'm going to set it to say pick rate profile selection, also using aux4, which is the channel that I've got. And if you don't know which channel you're going to use, then turn on your radio. You probably have to reset the drone, and then you go to receiver, and when you flip the switch that you want it to move, you'll see it moving down here accordingly. My radio is turned off right now, so that's why everything's all kind of neutraled out. And once you save all these settings, that's basically it, and you're ready to test it out. So I'm going to disconnect now. Now that your drone is set up for this, you should be able to test everything out and flip through your rate profiles one by one. You can test this out and verify what you're seeing on your OSD when you do that. One important thing to understand, and it's a mistake that many people make, is that just because you lowered the throttle, that's only controlling what power you will have. Betaflight still has 100% of the throttle that's available for it to do what it needs to do, like perform corrections or help you get out of a bad situation, and just to stabilize the drone. So remember that. Betaflight always gets 100%, even if you limit your throttle. So another thing you need to remember is if you're flying near your hover point, and you switch from slow to a higher rate profile, but you leave your throttle alone, what do you think will happen? That's right. You're going to go rocket straight up at a higher speed, gaining altitude. Likewise, if you're on hover at a higher rate profile, and then you switch downwards without adjusting throttle, you're going to start to descend really quickly. So be mindful of that. Yes, another common question is, can you make that switch change when you're flying anytime? And the answer is yes, you totally can. Okay, so anyhow, I hope that answers your question, Lucy. And for everyone else, thanks for watching. Bye.